All right, guys, so this week's vlog is going to be one of those serious vlogs again. As you can see behind me, I put up a patch board with a bunch of department patches. In vlog 3, as you remember, I did a little tribute to the fallen officers of 2016. Well, I contacted those departments and requested to see if they could send a patch so I can post it up here on this board. Some of them have the black ribbons on them, and those are the departments that sent the patches back that lost officers last year. So I'm memorializing them with the black ribbons. But that got me thinking that, YouTube is flooded with these officer-involved shootings from dash cam video or body camera video. And you see little snippets here and there on the media, but you never really get a chance to sit down and talk to somebody who's been involved in a shooting, or at least, if you don't research that on a regular basis. Luckily, I've never been in a shooting, knock on wood, and been in a few close calls, but for the most part, we conduct tours of our headquarters to Boy Scouts and Girl Scouts and whatnot, and a lot of times you'll see younger kids especially, they're just mesmerized by the gear that we wear and the gun especially. And we do demonstrations of firearms to talk about firearm safety, and we kind of want to dispel the fascination of all this. I try and drive a point home to them that for the most part, 99% of the time, police officers are just helping people. Whether people are lost, they lock their keys in the car, there's a medical call or whatever. These are the majority of the calls that we go on. And I explained to the little kids, we wear these things just like a carpenter carries tools. Well, police officers need tools as well if we happen to have to use them for bad people. So it's always in the forefront of our mind, but I don't know any police officer that comes to work saying, oh, I can't wait to shoot somebody today. And it's a horrible thing to have to do and worry about whether or not you're coming home at the end of the day. And you have to make that decision to take somebody's life. So we got an opportunity this week to talk to one of our Class 2 SLEOs, which is a special law enforcement officer, basically a part-time police officer. And we have quite a few of them. Some of them are retired police officers that worked full-time and did a full career. In this particular vlog, we sit down with George Petersen, who is a retired lieutenant from one of our neighboring towns. And he describes his officer-involved shooting back in 1999. It'd be important to kind of hear firsthand accounts of what occurred, not just the physical encounters, but everything that surrounded the incident. And well, we're just going to let George explain that. And we thank him greatly for sitting down and opening up to us. I know it must be very hard. And again, thank you, George. Thank you for doing this today. I know it's probably tough to talk about something like that, so I know you're appreciative as well.
Yeah, can't thank you enough. I appreciate you doing this for us. Yep. George, again, thanks for coming in today, and I appreciate you giving us a little bit of insight on the shooting that you were involved with in Chatham.
Sure.
How you remember it.
All right, so March 13th, 1999, it was a Saturday. It was one of those really nice days, and this was one of those days that you couldn't find something as hard as we tried. Anyhow, we worked 7 to 7, our shifts, and I was a shift sergeant at the time. And so as a sergeant, I was the float car, and I had one car that was inside writing reports, and the other car was on the other side, and he was on, I want to say, about a year, so we would still kind of shadow him when calls would come in. So around 6:30, I was actually out at a pizzeria that we frequented a lot, and I was there, and we got a call for a welfare check. Now, welfare checks they're a dime a dozen.
Routine, right.
Check on grandma, check on whatever. And this was a woman was supposed to meet her friend for dinner. She hadn't shown up. She called the house, didn't get an answer, and she was concerned, so she called us. So Mike was dispatched to go to the call, and being the sergeant, and I figured I would just go and shadow him.
Was this a house that you guys had history at? Have you been there for?
We had never been there. We had never had a call there. We had no interaction. I don't think I'd ever met her myself. Now, we had an interesting caveat in all this is that we had a Long Hill Road and a Long Hill Lane, right? Two similarly named roads. And they were a couple blocks from each other. Well, they were on Long Hill Road. Well, when she called it in as being on Long Hill Lane. So when Mike responded, he initially responded to Long Hill Lane. And it was beneficial because he would have been there by himself. So we wound up responding to the call together. So we pull up together, and the way the house was situated, when we drove down their driveway was basically almost straight ahead, so we kind of pulled right into the driveway. So we stopped, we got out of the car, and Mike had lit up the house with the spotlight, or it was dark at this point. So a neighbor's walking down. So the neighbor was walking down the steps, so he walks over to us and he says, listen, I just talked to Tom, and he told me everything's okay. And he said Karen's okay. He said the kids are okay. The only thing he adds is that he was just acting funny, weird. I don't know how to describe it. It was just he was acting odd. We were like, all right. So Mike says, he goes, all right, Sarge, shall we go up to the front door? Now the house is lit up. There's lights on through that house. You could see a television, playing inside. So it looked like a normal house, like typical house, 6:30 at night, And this is where they talk about that sixth sense. Something didn't feel right. So I said to Mike, I said, no, let's walk around the house first. I said, you go to the left, I'll go to the right, we'll meet in the back, just kind of look in the house, see what you see. Now at that point, we're under the impression that he's in the house. I mean, the neighbor literally just talked to him at the door and walked down the steps as we pulled up. So as I got to it was a small house, and as I got to the one corner of the house and started to make my way around, again staying back and in the shadows, I hear something out in the woods in the back of the house. So I shine my flashlight, and when I do, I see somebody's butt. Basically, he was crawling into the forsythia bushes. And my initial thought was 6:30 at night. It's a kid cutting through the neighborhood. I mean, there's houses situated all around. That was my first thought. So I yelled at him, and I was just like, I said, "Hey, what are you doing?" Right? With that, he stops and he backs out of the forsythia. He stands up, and he turns around, and it's clearly not a kid; it's an adult. And as he turns around, I can see I'm about 30 feet away from him. He's holding a knife, and I from 30 feet away I could see the blood on the knife. The knife was covered in blood. It was a big kitchen knife. And he turns around and he just stares at me. I've never seen anybody stare at me like that. Yeah. He was looking at me, but like through me. Right. And now, to this day, I have no recollection of ever drawing my weapon. All I know is I saw a knife in his hand, and my gun, like a faithful dog, was in front of me already.
That muscle memory.
Yeah. And I'm screaming at him like, drop that knife, drop that knife. Now, Mike, in the meantime, he's basically down the hill behind the house, and I'm on this side of the house. Right. So he just hears me yelling because the house is muffling a lot of what I'm saying. So anyhow, I'm screaming at this guy, drop the knife, and everything, and he's just standing there staring at me. And all of a sudden, he starts charging me, and he's running across the ground. So I started like backing up tactically, trying to
create distance.
Create distance. But he was running, and I'm back. I'm tactically backing up. So he's closing the distance faster than I'm backing up. And as I'm screaming at him. I was hoarse the next day because I was screaming. I figured let me get it out as fast and as loud as I can. And in fact, at one point, I actually said, "Look, I don't want to shoot you. Mm-hmm. Just stop. Drop the knife." Nothing. It's weird. He got 7 feet away, which they say is
that's kill distance.
That's the kill zone.
Yeah.
And I can't explain it.
Close, man.
But I literally heard the words. Somebody spoke the words, "It's time." I literally heard. It was as clear as day, as if like I had an instructor standing behind me. "It's time," and I knew what that meant.
Yeah.
So I fired a double tap, right the way we're trained.
Center mass.
Fire a double tap, reassess, and so the first shot hit him. Actually, hit him in low. And one of the things I learned is that in most police shootings, we tend to shoot low and come up.
First shot, right.
So the first shot hit him low. Now, that first shot was a deadly shot because it hit the hip. We used, at the time, black Talon ammunition. We were shooting 45s, and it was a 45 black Talon, so it was just a big, heavy
some power to it,
round. And it would open up, and it was like claws. And when it hit his hip, it split. So basically it was like two saw blades going through, and it severed both his femoral arteries.
Oh, wow.
So he was...
Took out his wheels at that point.
So
that's like instantaneous. He must have dropped right there, right?
Well, he didn't drop.
Really?
What he did, it hit him. It actually spun him around because when it hit his hip, it spun him to the side. The second shot, which was, it went through his shirt, but because he had spun around, instead of hitting him straight on, right, it went through the shirt, across the front of his belly, and out the other side. They were searching for a third round because they found 3 holes. And they said, "But didn't you fire 3 rounds?" I said, "I think I fired 2." And this was a big thing. Then they finally realized that the one bullet had created the 2, because they only found there were 2 rounds discharged. They found 2 bullets, and everything. So now he's standing there. He's bent over a little bit. He's still got the knife, and I'm still screaming at him. And unlike the movies, he didn't just fall down and collapse. And with that, he turns and he goes to lunge at me a second time. But he was well within the kill zone at that point.
Sure.
I was a hair away from firing another double tap,
Right.
and that's when his legs literally just gave out, and he fell down on his knees, and then he toppled right over on his face. And now Mike, in the meantime, he had been navigating over all the stuff. He gets over the fence and he comes running up the hill, and he's like, now he's got his gun out. He has no idea why I shot him. He just knows that I shot him, and he probably had a good reason. So he's like, "I've got him covered, Sarge." And I'm like, "Hell, I've got him covered.
Yeah.
You cuff him." So he slides his one arm out, cuffs it, slides the other arm out, cuffs it. We roll him over, right? So now he's facing us. He's got the exact same look on his
No
face.
kidding.
Right? I mean, from the time I saw him to the time he died, his face never changed. And there's the bloody knife, right? So now I got to try to save the guy's life.
At this point in time, you still don't know what transpired prior to you getting there. Why he's got a knife? Why it's bloody?
Blood,
right.
I mean, none of this. You're just going off of that. A man from the woods came back out with a knife and became a threat to you.
Yep.
Now he's still alive at this point.
He is still alive at that moment. So I call on the radio, something to the effect that 1 down, shots fired, 1 down, need backup, I need an ambulance. Somewhere they get confused. They think one of us got shot. So they put out, police officer, shots fired, need assistance. So basically,
The cavalry comes.
Yeah, a really good friend of mine was one of the first. He was on the oncoming shift, and he was one of the first to get there. And the first officer that got there, I just said, "Just get in the house, get in the house. I know it's bad. I haven't seen it, but I know it's bad." So once more people got there, somebody kind of took station with the body. And then I walked on around. I never went in the house, but what had happened inside was the guy that I shot, he'd killed his wife in the morning. Still gets to me. His 8-year-old son went to dial 911, and the way the phone was, the wire went into the kitchen, and the father he'd killed the mother and thrown her down the steps. He walked around, and as the son had grabbed the phone, he walked in and he sliced the cord in the kitchen because it was on like a long cord, and then he went in and he stabbed his 8-year-old to death right on top of the phone. And then he went and he stabbed his 3-year-old 13 times. The 3-year-old lived. He played dead from 10 in the morning till 6:30 at night when this happened. The father sat on the couch next to him the entire day while this 3-year-old just sat there. And he, after I shot him, and the first officer ran in and found, as soon as she saw him, she realized that he was alive, so she grabbed him, she ran him out, and initially took him to her patrol car, I think, and then they put him in the ambulance. I'm not aware of any of this. And so I'm in a daze. So I walk over to the ambulance, and I'm just looking for like some like mental safety or something. And we were really close with the ambulance folks and stuff. And so I opened the side door of the ambulance, and they had already cut all the clothing off. And the imprint in my mind is seeing this 3-year-old with all these stab wounds. And I just remember I opened the door and I'm staring at this, and I was just like, oh, and I had to close the door. It just, like, it's funny, like shooting and killing the guy now is not a big deal. It's what he did that really gets to me.
Now, at that time, you said you were on about 15 years, right? 14 years?
Yeah, about 14 years, I think.
Were you always a tactical kind of guy, always kept it fresh in the forefront of your mind, that kind of stuff? Because Chatham, let's explain to people that don't know, Chatham's a small town, correct?
Yeah.
Smaller town.
Much smaller.
Not a lot that goes on, as far as like violent crimes or anything like that. It's still to this day, right? I mean, it's pretty nice, mellow town, so easy to get complacent.
Very easy.
Right.
It is a community service type of town.
Do you feel that you resorted back to that training when you were actually, in a situation where you had to use deadly force?
I think everything I did was by habit at that point. It was so ingrained. Like I said, I have no recollection of actually drawing my weapon, and it was instinct, I guess would be a better way to say. We had this old timer that he would give us odds and ends things. One of the things that he had given me was an old VHS, like he had recorded off the television. There was a television series called Survivors, and it was, I think it was like Police Survivors or something, and it was hosted by William Shatner, and it was law enforcement officers that had been involved in near-fatal incidents and how they survived it. And it was on television for a while. I don't know how long, but it was on for a while. And he had recorded an episode. And so I had watched it, and it was one of the things, it kind of instilled, like from watching that, and I actually still have the tape somewhere, but it sort of instilled this idea.
Just can't play it anywhere.
Yeah. I actually still have a VHS player.
Do you really?
Yeah. But I watched that, and it just instilled the idea that you just never know.
Yeah.
So there was a period of time where they had shipped out this DVD, and it was this assistant prosecutor who went over the law. So now all of a sudden he's there and he's interviewing me about the case. In the end, it wound up being a good shooting. It still took like 6 months to get cleared, but now for me psychologically, I'm not going to kid you. Like I tried to go right back to work. And I got in, and I had like huge anger issues, and to the point that I couldn't process. And
Wow.
What I was going to say, when the crisis team came in, one of the first things they told Mike and I was, in fatal police shootings, 70% of police officers leave the job within 5 years.
Wow.
And so the reason we're here is we want to, help you get through this and process this. Right. And they were telling us all the emotions. You're going to go. This is how you're going to feel, and this. They laid it all out. And I remember sitting there, and then I just looked up at the one guy, and I said to him, "I want to be part of the 30%." That's. I just remember being very clear. I want to be part of the 30%. Yeah. And I said, I want counseling. I want to do whatever I have to do to make it. One of the problems I was having was every time I put the uniform on, I got these huge anger issues, and I didn't understand why. I mean, I could talk about the incident, I could tell, it's like, hey, look, the guy was, went nuts and did all this terrible stuff. I'm talking about my, how I feel, and, nothing's changing. And then all of a sudden, one day, I blow up. Who the hell was he to do this to me and to his family and everything? And it was the anger. Mm-hmm. I had repressed the anger.
So deep.
Yep. And
wow.
So, like that was the one issue, and the second issue was this fear that every time I put the uniform on, I felt like I was a target. Mm-hmm. And once those two issues came out, I remember I went home, I put on the uniform, and I was like, because I was out of work for 8 weeks. Mm-hmm. Every time I put the uniform on, I'd get like super angry and anxious and stuff. I put it on, I was like, this is great. I called into work and said, I'm ready to go. And they said, well, we have to get official clearance before you can actually come back, and everything. But,
wow, man.
Yeah.
It's crazy how the mind works like that. Like, I mean, it's so it's so suppressed you don't even realize it.
Yeah.
You know?
Oh, and
And
the dreams that I had.
Yeah.
Oh my God,
Really.
I had such crazy dreams, and it was like what the counselor explained was that my dreams were basically designed to help put. He said this is something so outside your experience, because the way we learn, we're always comparing and contrasting. Well, there's nothing to compare this to. So he goes, your mind basically has to create a new compartment for what is a lawful, legitimate shooting and killing somebody. So, like one of the dreams that stands out is that I had my dog that I loved, and in my dream I just walked in and like shot and killed my dog in my dream, obviously, and I did it like with no emotion at all. I just walked in and I just remember like shooting and killing my dog. And when I woke up, I was like a wreck. I mean, it really upset me. And I remember him saying, he goes, what your mind is doing is it's basically saying, is this okay? Clearly that's not. But this is okay. And it's creating parameters and boundaries as to what is okay about shooting and killing someone. So in this case, so it's understanding. Your mind is trying to grasp this. And it did, time and time again, it would have these different scenarios and different things that I would, and some were okay, some weren't okay. And what it did is it created those boundaries and created that compartment in my mind. Wow. So, yeah, it was crazy. So I talk about it with my students. I still, as you could see, I still get choked up at parts of it.
Does it help to talk about it?
I think it does. I think it's cathartic.
Yeah.
I mean, I want other cops to survive, and so I love telling the story for that reason, because I want people to realize, like, you just never know when stuff's going to happen. It's that repetition and training that is going to save your life if something ever happens. Hopefully, it never does, but if it does happen, you want to be ready for it.
I mean, I can't thank you enough for
George,
opening up. I mean, I know that's tough to talk about.
Time to talk with us about this, and we really appreciate you sharing your experiences. And it's truly an honor to be able to hear this coming from you and what you've been through. And
hopefully,
appreciate
likewise.
If it saves one person's life, or I'm glad you came out of it. You could have went the other way.